right.
Yeah,
Elijah, welcome to the show. Welcome to Zero to Growth. Happy to have you.
thank you. I'm glad to be here, man. It's an honor.
I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to have a conversation tonight.
Oh
I know
yeah,
we were talking a little bit about what was it, transition of the ages.
yes.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
First, my name is Elijah Smith. A little bit about myself before I get to kicking off. I wear a few different hats. I'm what people would call entrepreneur, which I describe as a problem solver. Over the years, I've become a serial problem solver. I've owned everything from cleaning companies to transportation companies. I've invested in commercial real estate, which I believe that's the field that we actually collaborated around, was the real estate side of things.
Hmm.
From there, I've ventured into nonprofits for mental health services. And I've just always had a passion for helping people, whether it be helping people build wealth or get access to healthy ways of living and healthy habits. Just helping people has always been a passion of mine and problem solving. Over the past few years, I've been crafting my skills in the ecosystem of technology. With that, I've found myself in the title or position of a blockchain developer and an AI engineer. One thing that I've come across is I founded an event called Empower. It was a wealth and wellness expo in Denver, Colorado, where we taught people how to use holistic health services or health habits in terms of being able to build up or increase your well-being using holistic practices, as well as how to build wealth in a fintech era. Some of the influential people that I had there would be 19 Keys and Queen Afua. Those are two big keynotes that I had there that were powerful in the messages that they were able to deliver. Now, moving on, I have found myself fully engulfed in this understanding of how technology is the future. It's a hell of a tool. And so, with that being said, what we had spoke about before in terms of the transition of the ages, I feel a lot of people have a, how do you say, I guess you would say, inability to be aware of the where we've been, where we're at, and where we're headed. And so, with that being said, I believe that where we've been is, at least just 2 ages ago, we went from a feudal age to a industrial age. And just a little bit of a background for the feudal age, for the people who don't know exactly what I'm referring to. It's how we've evolved from few people having land or resources for people to work on. And back in the feudal times, there were people who had wealth that was tied to land and labor, and the people who owned that land controlled the economy. And so this was called the land rush during the medieval times. With that being said, wealth was passed down through inheritance, and that kind of made it hard for people to be able to level up in terms of their wealth. And so with that being said, the land rush moved into the 1800s, and that's where we started to move into what was called the industrial age. Slaves, or however you want to say it, that was tilling the land or being able to develop these resources on it. With the industrial age, we didn't need as many people. We had machines that were able to do some of the work for us. And with my tractor, I could do the work of 100 people on your land to be able to till up your fields. Then I just needed one tractor to do the same amount of work. So, with that being said, that kind of brought us into industrial age where machines were doing a lot of the work for us. And so now, moving on forward, we are still in the industrial age, moving more into what we have called now the tech era or the digital age. And with this, we have a complete transition and automation of the work that needs to be done. And so that's where we have AI doing a lot of the processing for us. We have big tech companies that are doing a lot of the connecting for us on the internet. And so, with the birth of the internet, that kind of changed and revolutionized the way that we were doing things. And as we're moving into this age now, in my mind, it's scary and at the same time a blessing, because we have now a tool that is able to do automation of the tedious things, the little detail works, and that's nice. But at the same time, it takes a lot of people out of their jobs, especially the people who have just basic skill sets. And so that's the scary part of it. That's with every age, you're in a transition period where people have to adapt to the new circumstances. And the people who don't adapt will struggle. And the people who do, who are able to adapt, they will have new chances at opportunity and resources. The industrial age would have been more like the gold rush. There was an amazing time where people had a lot of chance to build a lot of wealth, especially with the new banking systems. And now we're moving into it's a digital rush where everybody has a chance to be able to build wealth and have chance at resources through just the click of the button on the internet. That's where we're at. I know I rambled right there, but at the end of the day, just wanted to get the concept down of understanding the transitional eras that we're in, and if how important it is to be able to know where you've been at, human history wise, where we've been at, where we're at currently, and then where we're headed. So that way, you know exactly how you need to adapt to the circumstances.
When it comes to adapting to, this AI future that we're headed towards, it definitely does seem like we are still in the very VCR stages of this digital rush. And so, how do you see people navigating how to maybe their position in the workforce was outsourced to AI? What is a way that you see that people can stay ahead of that and find a way to really utilize AI to put them ahead?
First thing is even the understanding that we are that it's a tool. A lot of times people have a big fear around this tool or tools in general. People will say this is evil, that tool is evil, it's going to ruin the world, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. But at the end of the day, it's about the user. It's the person who's using it. People say guns are bad, but guns ain't do nothing. It's the user that actually did something wrong. So I think that developing a understanding and education around it and an openness to being able to utilize it is the first step. Second step is learning how to speak the language of the computer. That's in my mind as a developer, I had to learn languages. I had to learn how the computer speaks, how it receives messages, how it tells you, how it talks to you, what's the best way to communicate with this thing. But with that being said, that's a specialized type of knowledge, and not everybody has that type of brain. So for the common person, I guess to answer your question is the easiest way for people to adapt to these new circumstances is just simply learning how to critically think about a problem. Say, okay, this is the problem. Here's my question about the problem that will give me an answer to the solution. That is the basics towards understanding AI and being able to integrate it into your life.
Do you think it's going to come to a point where we're going to have maybe an over reliance on AI and maybe that critical thinking piece is, I'm not going to say go out the window because I don't think there is a way to completely remove that critical thinking piece from the human aspect.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Look at where you've been so that way you can see where you're at and you know where you're going, because there's a lot of people who the internet has completely crippled them and they couldn't get anything done without relying. They can't even get down the street without using the internet, their GPS, to tell them how to get to the store. That's crippling. That's a whole lack of critical thinking right there. But again, it's just a matter of making sure that you're using this to problem solve and not just using it to get you to the usual, the basic know-how. That's the scary part. So to answer your question, is it going to remove the critical thinking aspect? Again, yes and no. Some people, it will completely cripple them and they won't be able to think without it or even live without it. But then there's some people who will be able to use it to increase their critical thinking. They say that, what is it, like 90% of the population is reliant on the 10% of the population. The 10% of the population is usually the entrepreneurs. So I do think a big part of the population is going to be reliant on what the other 10% does. So yeah.
That makes sense, especially as that 10% starts moving more and more into AI. The
Mm-hmm.
world is really going to have no choice but to follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any inefficiencies with AI currently in the way we're using it?
Yeah, so there's a lot. This is also what anything that I create in this tech world has a responsibility to sustainability. When we were just speaking about the 10% that is doing the problem solving and implementing these technologies, that 10% also has a responsibility not only to problem solve and make people's lives easier, but also to make sure that the technologies that are making these people's lives easier is sustainable. That is the biggest thing. And if it's not at the top of people's concerns, then they're not understanding what they're using and how they're using it and how it's affecting other people, affecting the planet. That for me is top priority. It has to be sustainable before you just try to innovate and scale. And so I think that the 10% also has a big responsibility. These tech giants have big responsibilities to make sure that they are utilizing this stuff with sustainability in mind, because they're making big plans right now. And when I say they're, the billionaires, they're making big plans to where we can leave Earth and go inhabit another planet, but they're not caring about how they're trashing this one. They're not, and that doesn't mean all 8 billion people are about to be able to leave. You know what I mean? So there's people who are still going to have to deal with this climate disaster, these climate changes over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. We need to keep that in mind. And I think it comes down to the 90%, making sure that they hold the 10% responsible. That's just my little philosophy of my mission in life. But that's one thing I'm dedicated to doing, is making sure that we use this technology sustainably.
That's interesting. I don't think I've really heard too many people talking about finding ways to use AI in a sustainable manner. At this point, I see a lot of just how to start implementing this in someone's business rather than looking at those long-term effects. So how do you really judge for that kind of sustainability?
Okay. So when it comes down to how AI is used or how it works, a lot of people don't really care about how it works. They just want to know how it makes their life easier, how they can make money from it, XYZ. But when it comes down to how it works, it uses these huge databases that are using a lot of water, of resources, of GPUs. They're using a lot of lithium. They're using a lot of just natural resources that the Earth has. And so when you start mining these minerals like this in a very unnatural way in big, huge amounts, and also not only that, but you're also releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This is only a matter of time before it throws the Earth out of balance. And so your question is, how do you make sure that doesn't happen? By making sure that your processes are carbon neutral. Google has done a good job, I believe, over the past couple of years in terms of making sure that their AI is more sustainable friendly. Blockchain is something I'm very an advocate for, but the Cardano network is an amazing platform. Algorand, amazing platform. These people are making sure that they're innovating with sustainability in mind. My goal with Empower at our next event, which is coming up in October, we are highlighting sustainable platforms first. Those are the people who need the stage, who people need to understand that this is where you can trust to put your time or energy or your platform, your projects. This is the platform that's keeping sustainability in mind, your future in mind. So that's the direction that we're headed for with that.
So what exactly is blockchain?
Okay. So when it comes down to blockchain is the best invention that was given to us in this human era that we have on this planet. One thing that we've had trouble with, I'll state the problem first. The problem is that we have always had some central government, some human power head, some power figure that controlled resources, that watched what you did, that told you whether you're approved or not for something. It was able to manipulate and said who can have wealth and who can't. There was always some central figure that was suppressing the common person, right? So with this new invention of blockchain, there was a guy named I think it's Satoshi Nakamura. He wrote a white paper, which is a research paper just telling exactly how this project works. And he created something called Bitcoin. And so with that, he created a system that was trustless, meaning that it was self-governing, and it was a ledger that was transparent, private, and secure. So imagine there's a notebook that the world can use. So basically, what it does is it allows everybody to remember what happened, who did what, and it keeps track of every single thing that happens. So if you make a transaction on the blockchain, let's say you buy Bitcoin, that's logged on your side. It says there was an account that made this deposit for this much and they own this, right? So at that point, that's logged in on there. I have the exact same thing that can happen on the opposite side of the world. The exact same thing. The ledger, I buy Bitcoin, boom. It says exactly what was purchased, when was purchased, who. It tells exactly what happened. And so with that, it keeps record of everything and never lets anyone change the past. And every time something happens, there's a new page or a new block that was added. And the page links together so no one can cheat, and everyone gets a copy so they know that it's safe and fair. And so with that being said, this again has allowed us to be able to have a trustless system that we don't have to worry about who is doing what. It's all there. It's all out there in the open. Over the past, what is it, almost month now, I get alerts on whale alerts that let me know every single time somebody purchases over $1 million worth of anything on the blockchain network. So I get it. So when President Trump was getting elected, I was watching billions of dollars get purchased every day, every single day. When he hosted his conference in DC, billions of dollars was getting transferred over the course of that weekend. Like it was like constantly my phone was ringing all night. So again, I'm alerted every single time. We all get to watch everything. So everything's transparent. And that's a beautiful thing. Also, everybody has access to wealth. Everybody can purchase this. There's no bank that can say you're not allowed to be banked or not. I'm able I can get loans through the blockchain network. And nobody can tell me whether I'm allowed to have this or not. There's so many ways that I can build wealth on the blockchain network. I can create my own, which I'm working on, is create my own DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization that allows everybody to be able to have a self-governing system. And I can have my own treasury that gives out to Black and brown businesses for whatever their business is. I can give out microloans through this treasury where we give out a certain amount of money and we're backed by XYZ. There's so many different ways that we can build wealth in this era now. And it's an amazing technology. And it's just, I can talk about this stuff all day. but, but I hope that answers your question what blockchain technology is.
Yeah, that's actually quite fascinating. I'm sure there are many levels to it.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part, you really just hear about people starting to invest in like Bitcoin. Why would someone want to take the currency they have now and start putting it in the block and start investing in the blockchain to start doing what you're doing and setting up, I guess, a system where you have this digital currency that's backed by a real asset? How does that work?
Again, I like to start with the problem. The problem is that you've got your dollars, right? You've got you've got $20 right here. But just 20 years ago, this actually would have got me pretty far. I could have got 5, 6, 7 gallons of gas with this. I could have went down to the next city and came back and been good and still have a tank for the rest of the week. Now this gets me 3 gallons of gas, probably 2 in California. So what I'm saying is over the course of the years, our fiat money is inflationary. Meaning that it's decreasing as time goes on because they are printing money off. And the only reason why money is valuable is because it's supposed to be scarce. But if they're printing off billions of dollars, they're printing off more billions of dollars to give to another country just to buy their resources, and they keep printing this money off. Guess what? You're getting your money means less and less as they print more and more. I don't know if you remember the stipends that they were giving back in. I just want to make sure. Okay. I just want to make sure that I still got my computer got battery. But I don't know if you remember the stipends that they were giving back in 2020. They were handing out $2,000 stipends. That's nice. Everybody got relief. But at that same time, the homeless guy on 6th Street now has $2,000 in his pocket. At that point, rent has to go up. Everybody's money, the cost of everything has to go up. That's a problem. But to answer your question is, Why would somebody want to transfer their fiat money to the blockchain network? Is because Bitcoin is deflationary, meaning that they produce a certain amount of Bitcoins every year. And so Satoshi had this in mind. He already understood this, that we're going to produce a certain amount of Bitcoins every year. And every 4 years, we're going to half how many that are produced. So what does that do? That means that eventually your kids are going to say, damn, dad, Bitcoins were being produced when you was alive. You are old. You know what I mean? Like it'll be on some like, how were they produced? You know what I mean? Like how they were just making this stuff. How come you weren't buying a bunch of these? I get it. That type of question would be had. So my point is, if you collect them now while they're being made, then your money's only going to go up. The value of what you're holding only goes up because they produce less, and they'll never produce more.
There's definitely a lot of those digital currencies coming out now. And I think there are a lot of people that are trying to guide people to making unwise decisions when they really don't need to, buying into cryptocurrency when they should be working on active income and building that passive income up first. But how do you really decide which money system you should trust, which of these digital coins that you should be buying into?
You know, anytime you're investing energy into anything, you want to look at the greats. You want to look at the Warren Buffetts. And Warren Buffett don't invest in anything that he don't understand. And if you don't understand it, don't invest in it. And there's other ways to invest. I think people need to understand first off financial literacy and the understanding of what money is, that it's just a value holder. And you don't have to invest in blockchain. You can also go grab gold, go get silver, go collect something that holds value that allows you to maintain this amount of value, or hopefully increases with value as time goes on. But if somebody's adamant about investing in the blockchain network, I would say, once again, do your research over whatever it is that you're investing in. A lot of people have a short-term type of time frame. A lot of people are in survival mentalities, which means that we need our money next week. We need a return next tomorrow. You know what I mean? I need 1,000 tomorrow. When if you just financial literacy teaches you pay yourself, pay your future self. Richest man of Babylon, just take 1/10 and put it into your future self. Pay yourself. And so if you take that, then you start to look at which blockchains are, one, deflationary, two, built on something, like they actually have an entire ecosystem behind them pushing for innovation and using it for social good. Cardano is one that, like I said, I will continue to back. Bitcoin, Ethereum, that's the grandfather, the son, and the grandson right there. I would stick to those. Stellar is a good one. Algorand is another one. World Mobile is another one. Blockchain's making it to where everybody can get internet worldwide. And that's another powerful thing. World Mobile is an amazing thing. Helium's another one. But you get paid for having a hotspot at your house and providing internet to people. This is revolutionary. And at the end of the day, you just got to do your research and understand that the best invention of humankind is right here. And you got to figure out how the hell it works and how it can work for you.
I think it's definitely going to take some real time and research to sit down and dive all through that. Definitely, like you said, like Warren Buffett does, don't invest in something you really don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Do you think there's going to be a time when we're moving away from the physical paper money and just have a straight digital currency?
Now. Yeah, like now. Trump's already endorsed it completely. You understand? He wants the United States to be the world holder of Bitcoin. I've watched billions and billions of dollars be poured into the blockchain network as he was making this announcement for the blockchain regulation, or for the crypto regulation. Yeah, we'll move away from paper everything. It'll be all digital. Your IDs will even be digital. It'll be verified through the blockchain network. Everything will be digital. Everything. This blockchain completely takes out the intermediary. It's not, people just focus on the crypto part, which is the money part, because everybody's trying to make a quick living. But at the end of the day, don't forget that this is also All trust systems, all intermediaries. I'm gonna say it again, all intermediaries, meaning when you go to the dentist office and you need to get your dental record, you get your grill done, right? Then you leave, go to another state, and you need to go see the dentist again. You go in there and they say, we need your dental records from the last place. Then you call them, you got to go through a whole bunch of hoopla just to get your dental records. Hold on, wait, those are your dental records. Why do you not own your own records? Right? Through the blockchain system, we have to worry about that. You know what I mean? When your dental records are done, you upload it to the blockchain network, and guess what? You have access to that copy. You have access to that. Nobody else owns that. And so now you can go wherever you want. They do that so that they can keep your services coming back. You know, that goes from dental to health to marriage to even third parties with real estate, escrow. You know, there's no reason for escrow. If we have a trustful system that we can understand exactly how, you know, that I'm paying this, I'm getting this asset, we're making this exchange. Once both sides are verified, we make the switch. With the smart contract, you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, to circle back all the way, are we moving from paper to a straight digital? Yes, we're moving to a digital system because we have the birth of the internet and we're all connected and everything's verified.
How can business owners really position themselves to take advantage of AI and be able to see? I'm thinking about how AI can be used to be more of a benefit to some of the less developed countries, and how business owners can put themselves in a position to use AI to benefit them.
How can AI help benefit developing countries? Right?
Correct.
The best thing that anybody can ever have is education and love. At the end of the day, those are the two things. Like, once you get educated, you can start to understand how to manipulate your environment to gather resources. And in my mind, education is the key. If AI can teach everybody anything and they can break it down to where these complex concepts, they can break it down to, you can learn how to prompt engineer and say, hey, teach me this like a fifth grader. And then the AI takes physics and breaks it down like a fifth grader, breaks it down like it's in Legos, and can describe this to anybody. I think that's impactful to people in the developing countries. The main thing is that they need to get access to internet. If they can get access to internet, they can get access to a bank, they can get access to education, they can get access to be able to create a brand and YouTube, to be able to reach out to people and be able to give them information or be able to receive information. Like, this is, and they can be able to develop financial assets to be able to be used on the internet. So it's just, I think that it could be super, super duper influential to the world, not just the first world countries.
The problem is just getting it over there and getting them the service.
Right now, at this current point, and like I said, there's World Mobile Token that's looking to give the world internet. Again, that's something that you invest in right there. I think I invested a little bit at 50 cents or something, 40 cents. It's a game changer. Shit, solar panels is all they really need.
I hear a lot of back and forth on solar panels. Some people think it's great, some people obviously not so great. What is the deciding factor to whether you should be looking at solar panels or not?
I mean, do you get sun? In Colorado, we're sunny 300 days of the year. In, say, Detroit, Michigan, you may not be getting as much sun as we do, so solar panels may not be as nice. But living in like a tropical area, Costa Rica or Tulum or one of these countries right by the equator, they definitely have a good reason to use solar panels to be able to get renewable energy. And again, this is a way that you are sustainable. If we're gathering our energy from wind, if we're gathering our energy from solar panels, these are good solutions.
You think there's more ways that we could be leveraging the Earth's sustainability? Uh, for
1000%.
for instance, my thought is that a lot of cities or towns next to water should have already started using more hydroelectricity. I know we have wind farms, we have solar farms, things of that nature. But my thought is that it could always be more widespread and that we're underdeveloped in that sense.
1000%. I think that innovation sometimes can move too fast and not think about where it's even direction it's moving in. You know what I mean? It moves a little bit too fast. It gets ahead of itself. I consider myself very innovative. I think I have the same issue sometimes. I just want to grow. I just want to get better, and I'll run my head through a wall just to get better, and then realize, okay, I could have actually done that a little bit easier. But it's just a part of trying to move forward. I think I don't want to seem sexist or whatever, but I think men sometimes also have this problem in general too. It's just sometimes we're just like get there at all costs. And sometimes I think you just got to pull back and be like, okay, let's slow down so that way we can move at a steady pace in a safe manner. I think that would probably bring us a little bit more ease as we continue to move forward.
I don't see much of the slowing down portion. I think we'll always be chugging full steam ahead. I think a lot of the problems that are surfacing now are really going to come to a head for maybe the next generation or the generation after that, where they're working on more sustainable solutions for the planet that we should probably be working on now.
It's so scary. That's the scary part. Excuse me. This is stuff that keeps me up at night. You know what I mean? In terms of thinking like, how in the world do you slow down a machine that is built to go forward at the fastest rate that it can? My thought is that it's going to take the 90% to make sure they hold the 10% accountable. And again, my only thing that I can do is just take what's in my control, which is having a platform that is around blockchain technology and making sure that we represent companies that are sustainable, making sure that we bring in good initiatives, make sure we fund projects that have sustainability in mind, and also be able to speak to people like you who understand and can have platforms that allow me to be like, hey, let's remain sustainable. Let's make sure we're sustainable. That's the only thing that really you can do is speak your truth and try to keep the right things in mind.
You think it's tough for people to step out of the box and do that because it's almost like going against the grain sometimes?
1000%. And I don't think a lot of people want to go against the grain. It's not, people really actually want to be with the in crowd. It's not in to be like, hey, we should think about the future. We should think about slowing down and not think about how to make so much, not capitalize on every dollar. Let's actually think about how we can actually maybe lose some money so that way we can move more efficiently. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear, let's put $1 billion in sustainability. No, they want to hear, how can we make $2 billion? That is a hell of a question, but I think that at the end of the day, money again is just a tool. And if it's even a priority, I don't think it's a problem in terms of getting the money and making sure that we create these solutions. I really don't. I just don't think it's a priority at this point. Neither is tackling homelessness, or neither is education in America. None of these things are priorities. It's only exploitation is a priority. It's just, but again, if the 90% holds the 10% accountable, I think that, it has no choice but to be a priority. And you'll see a change.
How loud do you think the 90% would have to get before the 10% would actually turn to listen?
Not very loud at all. Boycott. In fact, don't say nothing, just boycott. The way that you make these big corporations and billionaires listen is by not buying their shit. You don't buy their things. You choose to put your money into this place because you understand you have your reasons, then they'll listen. Boycotting has always affected business. As any entrepreneur should know that.
Have you had an experience or seen it work in the past? I think from
Starbucks.
The couple times that I've seen it, it's been, we should all boycott these products. And a couple people do it, but then there's another group that's still, I'm still going to buy these products because I like them.
Yes and no. I agree with you 1000%. I think that people's willpower is real weak. You know what I mean? People's ability to be like, yeah, I stand on this and I'm not eating if I don't if you ain't gonna do this. At the end of the day, when you think about it, people do strikes when their pay isn't high enough. That always works. It may take a little while and people may have to suffer a little bit, but usually people they have no choice. They really have no choice. The power is with the majority at the end of the day, but the majority has to be united. So at the end of the day, It is what it is. We got to unite and we got to stand for something if we want something done. If not, we're just going to continue to get exploited.
I think the real issue with that might be, just for the sake of example, someone getting into entrepreneurship, it takes you wanting the change, but for a lot of people, it takes them hitting rock bottom first before they decide to make that change. And for the 90% as a group, I think waiting until it hits that rock bottom, hey, we absolutely have to do something now point. It might work a couple more times, but I think the longer things get pushed out, the more ramifications they will have.
Agreed. 1000% agree with you. I think that two things. One, people only change when the pain is too great to endure. That's a lot of times when people are forced to change and make a adaptation to their life. And that stands as an individual, it stands as a collective. I believe that we are at that point now. And this is just, of course, just strictly opinion based, but like my opinion is based off of fact of that we are in an economic collapse right now. Eggs are $600 right now for a carton of eggs. Yeah, so it's like at some point, somebody's gonna be like, "Yo, okay, this ain't it no more. I cannot do this no more." And I don't have the money to pay for it. We're just walking out the store with it. But it's because my kids got to eat. You know what I mean? At some point, this is where it becomes okay. The system is too much for me, and I got needs that need to be met. And I think that's when you'll, and also same thing, farmers, the producers, they're the ones. They're also gonna be the people who are like, "Yo, we're not, if you can't pay us, we're not going to be able to give you this." You'll just see a strain on everybody. Everybody's going to be like, okay, this isn't working. And so you'll see collapses with food. You'll see collapses with, as we're seeing now with education, collapses within the federal government, which we're seeing now. So you'll see complete collapses. And then that's when new systems will be built up. Corporations, businesses, you'll see all of them fail. And new ones will be created. The implementation of automation with AI, and then the implementation of blockchain with digital currencies.
I think it's really going to be key to who's rewriting those new policies per se that are going to go into place after that happens. I think we should bring back a little of the barter system. You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Now, this is where blockchain comes in, because this allows us to be able to create our own currencies. There's thousands of currencies that are created every day, but they're not backed by anything, and there's no intention. They're just creating coins and throwing them out there and then saying, okay. But if we actually take those coins and we say, okay, we're going to put that into XYZ businesses, and we're going to make sure that stays in circulation within these businesses. You're in Indiana?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're in Pennsylvania. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're in Pennsylvania right now, and Pennsylvania has its own currency that it's rolling with. The money is a belief system, and it just holds value. So again, we maybe can do a barter system where we're trading just amongst us. We don't need the intermediary to tell us whether we can have this money or not, whether we can get approved for a loan or not, whether we can have this amount of grapes on us, whatever it is. It's just we're able to have our own sovereignty. And that's a beautiful system in my mind. You sound like a little Marxist, which I'm a Marxist at the end of the day. It's education for the common person, and then the common person starts to overthrow the central government, the central power, because they become educated and understanding that they can just understand, they can get their resources within each other. We don't need somebody to govern us. We can do this. We can self-govern ourselves. But it takes an educated and united system to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It reminded me of, I can't remember where I read it, but they were talking about when you have a tyrannical person in power, everybody just wants to throw them out and be the new governing body themselves. But when everybody has that chance to vote, it's like nobody can really come together on how things should be done.
I really would want you to take a look at Cardano Network, man. Well, decentralized government, for one thing, is an amazing thing. A decentralized voting system that allows us to be able to vote on things, and it's done through a smart contract, meaning there's no way you can manipulate it. There's no way you can push these votes here or pay $1 million here and get an extra whatever. it's all decentralized. I guess you were saying that you don't think that we'll be able to come together around what needs to be voted on.
Maybe, potentially, it was just an observation, not really a
Okay.
question.
Cardano is an amazing system. Everything is community driven and initiated by the community. If we want to move in a certain direction, guess what? We got to make a proposal. Everybody votes on it, whether that passes or not. And then we're able to put it into action. And then boom, there's a set of people that we put in, initiate the advancement of that idea. It all stays community focused and community driven. So that way it's led from the bottom up and not top down.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of that kind of bottom up leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of that we're actually seeing in today's society.
None. None at all, man. And but some of these big tech companies are doing it. I've actually got a book right here called. Can you see it? Oh, no.
Nope, can't see anything.
Yeah, no. Oh well. It's called
Measure What Matters.
Measure What Matters. It's by John Doerr. He's super duper influential leader at Google, and he talks about the bottom up approach. How you let the employees talk about what they have experienced, what their perspectives is, their opinions, and the way that the company should go, how it can be more efficient. And then from the bottom up, that's how you start to make your decisions. It's initiated by the group, the majority. And that, to me, is what makes sense, rather than one person trying to steer the ship in the direction that everybody else should go. I think that most good leaders are going to always make sure that they take the input of the majority and then be able to move in a direction from there.
Yeah, I think I saw something similar. I'm sure they've been implementing it a lot longer, but I think it was Google where whenever they would have a business meeting to move the company forward, they would pull like a senior guy, someone who's been there for 5 years or something small like that, and then a complete newbie.
Yep.
And then they get a whole range of opinions on how we should move forward and how we should address X, Y, and Z issues.
Yes, it just makes more sense. It's hard for one person to think about, even the Elon Musk, or the Bill Gates, it's hard for one person to think about how to better billions of people. I think the billions of people will tell you how we should be helped as a majority. That's just my thought process. It's just a lot of responsibility for one person. I just think that it makes more sense for the majority to be able to make those decisions or put us in the right direction of how those decisions should be made.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Well, do you have any books or maybe podcast recommendations?
Books. I do. I got a lot. Depends. If we're talking podcast, one podcast that I would say to check out is The Diary of a CEO. Diary of a CEO is pretty good. Books. Measure What Matters. If you're leading a company, leadership skills is essential. And being able to create things like the KPIs, you want to make sure that you're leading people in the right direction and everybody's included. It's inclusive. And honestly, man, it depends. It just really depends on what people want to do. At the end of the day, if we're moving in a direction of being an entrepreneur, or you're moving in a direction of AI or blockchain, technology in general, we're in the age of information. It's not because you don't have access to the information or can't get it. It's the fact that you don't have the willpower or discipline to be able to indulge in the information and digest the information to be able to implement consistently on a daily basis and be able to build your skill set. Udemy has thousands of courses at your hand for very little amounts of money. And I think that Udemy is a great one. Coursera is another one. There's a bunch of good ones out there, but yeah, that's what I would say is just personally develop through the actual courses and then build your portfolio and be able to make a change in the world.
Love that. Elijah, this has been an awesome conversation. Definitely a lot to think over in terms of how to use AI properly, how to be more sustainable, create more sustainable growth for not only business, but I feel like the human existence,
Yeah.
honestly. Goes way beyond business and just America in general, but the whole planet.
Yes.
Where can people go to connect with you and find out more about what you're working on?
Okay. Yeah, I would love to connect with people. Whoever wants to reach out, I'm always open to talks, to feedback, all of the above. You can catch me on empower25.info. That's the Empower website where you can catch up with us about the Empower event that we have going on for blockchain. I got a LinkedIn, Elijah Smith, and then I have an X or Twitter, which is at Empower underscore 2025. And then I have a YouTube channel that I'll be launching a brand on 222, February 22nd, 2025. And it's called The Wise X.
Love it. I'll make sure I get all those links down in the show notes for anybody who's checking this out in the future. But Elijah, thanks again for coming on. If anybody's watching, they got value from this, please subscribe, share it with a friend. It's going to help more people find the channel.
Mm-hmm.
And keep growing. Keep coming back for these awesome conversations. Drop your takeaways in the comments, and we will see you next time.